Cello everyone, Cello Doodle here, and today we are going to be taking a look at the different types of Stardew Valley players. There are so many different ways to play the game, so naturally there's very different styles that have arisen over time. So let's check out what kind of player you are. First off, we have the Traditionalists. These people play Stardew Valley how it was intended to be played. This includes doing a little bit of all aspects of the game and taking it at their own pace. They slowly work towards completion without racing for it as fast as they can like other types of players. These players are often very rich with nicely decorated farms by the end, best friends with all the NPCs, and happily married with 2 kids. Despite this being the original way to play the game, people have really made it their own, which is part of the charm of this game. And there are so many different ways to play it now, it helps make the game more popular. Players that are very entertaining to watch, and that's why they've taken over the Stardew Valley internet community, but they are very interesting. These players did not see the casual game description whatsoever, and their sole goal is to complete the game in its different aspects as fast as possible. This can be anywhere from completing the game as fast as possible to trying to get the first parsnip the fastest. These players often know the game inside and out, from the spawn rates of the items to the fastest way to get to certain spots. To have a speedrun qualify, there must be a video of it online, so speedrunners typically are YouTubers or streamers to be able to capitalize on all that time that they are spending doing these speedruns. These people are amazing to watch because they are so good at the game and memorize the most intricate details to assist their run. These players are also generally perfectionists, so even the smallest thing gone wrong will cause them to restart the run entirely, which to a player like me seems like pure torture. Min-maxers are another very interesting breed of Stardew Valley players that maximize their profits through analyzing the patterns in-game and eliminating all unnecessary steps. The most common min-maxing technique is called clay farming. This technique uses a pattern to determine where each piece of clay will spawn to help min-maxers make a ton of money in the early game of Stardew Valley. There are a few other min-maxing strategies out there, but that one is the most popular, and these strategies cover all different aspects of the game. We just don't hear about it as much if you're not into the min-maxing. These players often, instead of having the wiki up like the rest of us, they typically have a map or a guide to help with the different min-maxing techniques that they're using. The Completionist is the middle ground between the speedrunner and the Traditionalist. These players aim to complete everything and almost never get off task, but they don't rush as much as the speedrunners. These players often have a ton of wiki tabs at the ready every time they open up Stardew, just to make sure they can get everything they need. When they finish a step towards completion, they feel an immense amount of pride and excitement that pushes them towards working even harder towards that completion. These players are also more likely to turn into speedrunners if given the time, because they will eventually memorize every part of the game from being so focused and always aspiring to do better. The relationship builder is either everyone's best friend or their ex. The relationship builder wants to get to know all the NPCs as much as possible and see every single cutscene. The flip side to this is they want to see every NPC's cutscene, which with the marriage candidates entails them to eventually marrying multiple times to get all the different cutscenes. Thankfully for these players, in the Witch's Hut, you can wipe your ex's memory and make your life a little bit easier. These players tend to ignore the rest of the game, but find when an NPC requests an item, they suddenly gain an interest in farming or fishing, basically whatever activity the item requires. To some people, this may seem like a waste of time because you do not have to be involved with any of the NPCs to enjoy the game, but to these people, this is the reason they play the game. The fisher, as the name suggests, loves to fish. These people have mastered the difficult skill of fishing in Stardew Valley and are determined to catch every fish in the game. These players often love to use the fish tank in their home to show off their prized fish and turn their homes basically into an aquarium. These players quickly get to the iridium rod and catch all the legendary fish within a few in-game days of them being available. These legendary fish are the bane of these players' existence, but once they're caught, they're their prized possession that they display in their homes. These players also have a decent amount of money, since fishing is rather lucrative, but they're definitely not as rich as some of the other types of players. The fighters love the mines. As soon as they open up, they're down there fighting every day, trying to get as much loot as possible. The only times they pay attention to the rest of the game is when it gets in the way of their underground expeditions. They will try to get access to Skull Cavern as fast as possible and set up a steady food supply so they can get back to their mining and fighting. These players tend to have a ton of prismatic shards, gems, ores, and everything else you can find in the mines since they are always down there. If these players sell their valuable loot, they typically end up rich, but if they're hoarders, they can accidentally become one of the poorest types of players in the game. The Decorator is the most stylish out of all the types of Stardew players and always has the prettiest farms and buildings and the most outfits. Oftentimes, these players do add some function to their fashion, but often the types of crops or machines chosen are for aesthetic purposes, such as a beehive. These players try to get the furniture catalog as fast as possible, so their farms can be as pretty as possible without completely destroying their bank account too quickly. Oftentimes, these players convert their greenhouses to more decorating spaces, and if there are plants, they're only there to help spruce up the place and for the aesthetic. Overall, these players' farms are the best to look at and are super fun to look at on the internet because they're so unique and take a ton of work because no two farm types of these types of players are the same. The tycoon's only goal is to max out the amount of gold that they can have, and they are willing to go to ridiculous ends to achieve it. They will use almost every inch of farmland for lucrative crops such as ancient fruit or star fruit, and convert any indoor spaces such as barns and inside their own home to convert those crops into wine. These players are also willing to even use spaces outside their farm, such as the desert, for their machines, just to maximize their profits. As a symbol of their wealth as well, they typically have a golden clock on their farm and other very expensive items all over the place. The Hoarder is an interesting type of player and surprisingly is one of the most common types of players. And these people have trouble selling anything just in case they need it for something else later on in the game because you never know. These players are often completely broke because they won't sell anything, including crops, just in case they need it for cooking or a quest later on. Before the community center is complete, these players are especially bad because they think they might need everything and anything. They often have a ton of chests all over the place that are unorganized and take up a ton of space because they can't afford to buy a shed for storage because all their valuable stuff is in said chests. These players, however, easily complete villager quests because they always have at least one of the items that a person will request, but it might take them a bit to find that item. Thank you so much for tuning into my channel, and I hope you really enjoyed this video. Let me know down in the comments below what type of player you think you are. I honestly am multiple different types of player. I am not just one type, and honestly it fluctuates depending on my mood. So I hope this video helped you out and was a little bit of fun, and I will see you all next time. Bye!